Is there a reason behind the lack of spending for the Red Sox this offseason? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Red Sox have spent a whopping $1 million so far in 2024. Now, obviously, that number is going to increase at some point here, but the question is by how much? All signs are pointing towards the Red Sox not exactly flexing their financial might this offseason. And what's the reason for that? Could it be just as simple as the Red Sox are trying to keep their expenses low and their profits high? It definitely could be, but there could be other answers to that as well, and more complicated reasons as to why the Red Sox may not be spending money. So what we are going to do in today's video is we're going to play devil's advocate a little bit. We're going to talk about some other reasons why the Red Sox may not be spending the way that we have been expecting them to spend over the last couple of off seasons, specifically this off season, and we're going to talk about whether or not that's ever going to change. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so outside of the extremely obvious answer of, hey, they just want to keep the cash flow coming in, they want to have low expenses and high profits, there's another kind of obvious answer that people have been throwing out a lot as to why the Red Sox aren't spending anymore. It's because they don't care about winning. Now, personally, I don't think this is true. And the reason for this is not because I think they have a passion for the team or a passion for baseball, but because they have a passion for business, right? They're really smart businessmen, and smart businessmen understand that you make more money when you're a winning team in Boston than when you're a losing team in Boston. However, there could be a possibility that the Red Sox don't want to be that sort of juggernaut superstar. We're going to win the division. We're going to be World Series favorite type teams that we saw in the early 2000s and the 2010s. Maybe instead of, hey, our focus is winning everything, their focus is now, hey, with the new playoff structure, we can exploit this a little bit and create a team that's destined to win 85, 86 games, still get into the postseason, give fans that winning feeling while also still making a ton of money, right? So I don't think the answer to this question is they don't care about winning, but they may not care about winning as much as they did back in the early 2000s, where they were winning to prove a point as opposed to winning to make profits. And I think there's a big difference between those two, and I think this could be a really legitimate reason as to why the Red Sox aren't spending the money that we've seen them spend in the past. And this, to me, is a really smart business decision, but a really poor way to run the Boston Red Sox. However, this isn't the only possibility. Another possibility here is that the Red Sox just don't see anyone on the open market right now that's worth throwing all that money to. Yoshinobu Yamamoto was a unicorn in terms of free agents and someone they should have thrown money to, but you lose out on him and you take a look at the rest of the free agent class specifically for what the Red Sox need, and there are question marks with every single one of the available free agents. The two biggest ones right now are Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. Blake Snell just came off of his second Cy Young win, someone who won Cy Youngs in both the National and the American League. That's a really rare feat, but at the same time too, while he's an excellent pitcher talent-wise, he doesn't go super deep into games. He doesn't give you a ton of innings, and in 4 of his 8 seasons in Major League Baseball, he has missed some time at some point. He's also going into his age 31 season, and there is some risk there. You're going to be paying him like that 2-time Cy Young winner that he is and that he deserves. Is that contract going to age well as he gets closer to 40, having already missed time and having already not really been that sort of innings eater that the Red Sox are looking for? The other guy on this list is Jordan Montgomery, who does fit your needs. He's a guy who's a workhorse. He's going to give you a below 4 ERA. He's going to go fairly deep into games. He's going to give you a ton of innings, but at the same time too, he's not a huge strikeout pitcher, and he's also going into his age 31 season. Is this someone the Red Sox are willing to invest in like a number 1 when he's really a number 2 or a number 3 on a good rotation? There are multiple questions with the players still left in free agency. Maybe this isn't a lack of the Red Sox wanting to spend. Maybe it's a lack of the Red Sox feeling as though the right target to spend on is available in free agency, which I don't think is entirely ridiculous. I think there's a big difference between spending money to spend money and actually going out and calculating risk and finding the person that fits your team the best and then spending the money on them. If that's the reason why the Red Sox aren't spending money this offseason, it does make a little bit of sense. Is it entirely possible that the Red Sox want to spend this money but don't see the target that they think is worth the money out there on the open market? Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that this is the case for the Boston Red Sox. However, I think there is one more option here that could make a lot of sense as to why the Red Sox have been gun shy this offseason and really over the last couple of years. And that is this right here. This is the list of the biggest contracts given out by the Red Sox since the 2000s, since 2000 to be exact. Now, if you take a look at this list, there's a couple of things that stand out. The first is that their most successful high-value contracts have come via the way of extensions. We're talking about guys like David Ortiz, John Lester, Dustin Pedroia, Josh Beckett, even Bogarts, and the Devers contract right now looks like it's going to age pretty well. Those were realistically probably the most successful contracts in terms of big dollar value that the Red Sox have given out since 2000. However, the more unsuccessful contracts, probably the most unsuccessful contracts on this list, have basically all come from giving a ton of money to free agents. Pablo Sandoval, Carl Crawford, Rusney Castillo, for example, did not work out very well. Specifically, when you look at pitching and big market contracts that the Red Sox have given out over the years, they've had a lot more failures than they have success. Taking a look at the three biggest contracts in terms of pitching the Red Sox have given out since the year 2000. You've got Christopher Allen Sale, who since 2019 and signing his extension has yet to put together a season where he's worth getting paid the amount of money he's getting paid, which is about $26 million a year. Since 2019, he's either been injured or on the field he's been fairly inconsistent. Then you've got David Price, who was the largest pitching contract in baseball history at that point. David Price got you a World Series during his contract, and obviously that usually makes everything worth it. But when you break every single thing down here, was David Price worth the price of the highest contract in baseball history? Probably not with on-field statistics. Then you've got Daisuke Matsuzaka, who was also a part of a World Series. But again, with money you were paying Daisuke Matsuzaka, he was a little bit of a bust as well. His career with the Boston Red Sox was a dead average. He had a 101 ERA plus. He was 1% better than the average pitcher in baseball while getting paid the highest Japanese salary of all time at that point. And it's not just these big three, but those are the three that you spent the most money on, right? Those are the guys you went out and flexed your financial muscle to get. All of them had their cons as well as their pros, and in most cases, a lot of their cons outweighed their pros. And I'm not just talking about these big three as well. There are a lot of other smaller kind of contracts mixed in here that don't really live up to their value. Rick Porcello, for example, was an extension the Red Sox gave on a pretty high value pitching contract. He did win you a Cy Young, but overall, he was a barely average pitcher in Major League Baseball. John Lackey was a big contract that you gave out, and again, he gives you 2013, and if that gives you a World Series, it does help erase all the bad. But you look at the contract overall and the value of the contract overall, you did end up having to trade John Lackey, and even with 2013, he was still a pretty below average pitcher statistically for you over the last couple of years. Maybe there is a possibility that the Red Sox are taking a look at all of this and it's making them a bit gun shy, right? Every time they've given out a big time contract to a starting pitcher, which is what the Red Sox need, it's come back and bit them in the ass a little bit. So I think ultimately when we're trying to figure out why the Red Sox aren't spending any money or they aren't trying to spend money this offseason, it's a pretty deadly combination of everything we talked about. Maybe it is just they want profit more than they want success, or maybe it's a combination of the fact that they don't think they need to make a legitimate, true competitive team to sneak into the postseason and get the success that way, with a combination of they've had a lot of problems with their long-term pitching contracts in the past, and the pitchers on the open market right now do have some concerns. I think it's a combination of all of these things, and that's a really deadly problem. But I also don't think it's an excuse. At some point here, you have to realize that baseball is just a game. At the end of the day, that's all it is. And in baseball, you are going to lose more than you are going to win, and that same philosophy can be said for big-time contracts. At some point, you can't sit there and do nothing, because if you never step into the batter's box, you're never going to be successful. The Red Sox have stepped into the batter's box for the last 20 years, and honestly have been a lot more successful than a lot of other teams in this league. If you stop stepping into that box, you're going to stop being as successful. And no, spending does not always equal winning, right? We saw it last year with the Mets and the Padres, but at the same time too, if you could take every advantage you have to give yourselves a bit more wins than everyone else, you use those in baseball. And the same philosophy happens in the front office as well. The Red Sox have that advantage of being one of the biggest markets in the entire sport and in the entire world. Boston sports market is one of the best in all of major sports in the US, and you can use that to your advantage to make it a bit easier for you to win baseball games. And if you don't do that, you're putting yourself at an immediate disadvantage. So if I'm the Red Sox right now, yes, I understand the caution. I understand that you've been bitten a couple of times, but you need to get back onto that saddle at some point. You need to figure out how to successfully spend money, because if you don't, you're going to end up competing with every other team in Major League Baseball when you should just be competing with the top teams in this league. And I really hope that this is something that they could turn around at some point here. Maybe it's not this offseason, maybe it's 2025, but at some point you got to open the checkbook, you got to step in that batter's box, and you got to see if you can hit a home run, even if it means striking out once in a while. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, why do you think the Red Sox aren't spending money? Maybe think a little bit harder than, oh, they just want profits. Maybe try and figure out if there's an underlying reason. Let me know your thoughts as to why the Red Sox aren't spending money in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.